The gravy is brown and savory and explodes with flavor. We deserve to have this more than once a year, don't you think? And now we'll do the cornbread dressing. And is it ever good? I've had so many requests for this cornbread dressing since I've started doing this work, and here it is, and it's an outstanding recipe. First, you do need a recipe of cornbread. Any cornbread recipe will work, but I do use the Mormon cornbread recipe in the cookbook that accompanies this series. It is very firm, and it absorbs the broth nicely. And you will need 6 to 7 cups of crumbled cornbread. Here are the rest of the ingredients. 3 tablespoons of butter, 1 1/2 cups chopped onion, 3/4 teaspoon dried thyme, 1 1/2 tablespoons dried leaf sage, crumbled, 1 large cooking apple, peeled, cored, and chopped, 1/2 teaspoon each of salt and pepper, 1/4 cup minced parsley, and 1 1/4 cups chicken broth. First, saute your onions and your herbs all together, the thyme and the sage, and till it is just wilting, about 5 minutes. Then add your chopped apple and continue cooking that for another 5 minutes. And that is also to give some extra flavor to the apples. It'll absorb some of the butter. The apple gives a real lift to the mixture. Now at this point, you can refrigerate these 2 mixtures separated for up to 2 days. Don't mix them now because the dressing will get soggy, and you don't want that. In the morning of the day of the serving, then, you will combine the crumbs and this delicious sautéed mixture that makes this dressing so very special, the parsley, the salt and pepper, and the chicken broth, and pour it over it all, and then toss it very lightly. One thing that you will immediately notice is that this is a rather dry dressing and crumbly, and that's just precisely the way it's supposed to be. Toss it lightly now, and don't make it mushy. There was a guest who came and said, I don't care for any more turkey, but I'd sure like another helping of the bread he ate. So here, this particular turkey ate a lot of cornbread. And there it's all ready to go. Wasn't that easy? Now, transfer this to a greased 2-quart baking dish, and you can use either flat ones or deep ones, and bake it at 400 degrees for 40 to 50 minutes. This dressing is so special, and it's really a good example of cornbread dressing with that little bit of apple and sage we added. I hope that you will give it a try. Now I promised you a treat, how to make sponge sugar, which is the way I like to finish up Floating Island, a rather humble nursery dessert of custard topped with islands of meringue. Come with me to Ivy Tech in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and meet Chef Bill Butler and see how bagels and English muffins are made. And then Elizabeth Boyer will show us and their cooking classes for they trained chefs how to make that ethereal garnish sponge sugar. The day we came to Ivy Tech was baking day, so there was a lot of action going on. In the baking room, the students were preparing batters for yeast rolls, English muffins, and bagels. Are these students being taught the right things or not? I do like the school's priorities. The bagels are dropped into simmering water to pre-cook before they're baked. It is this water step that gives bagels their characteristic chewy crust. The English muffins, then, are dusted with cornmeal and baked on a hot grill until they're golden and puffy. They had an absolutely superb texture. Even the Queen would have approved of these English muffins. I've eaten the food that you and your students have prepared, and it's just fantastic. What makes the chef's program at Ivy Tech so special and unique?
I think it's the practicality of stressing hands-on learning. We augment the technical instruction phase with repetitive tasks, and that's further enhanced then with on-the-job training.
Well, you know my fondness for American food. I assume that it's no longer necessary for a chef to go abroad to study, to be a good chef and work in an excellent kitchen in America.
I would agree, and I think the last 2 decades have shown that the state-of-the-art of the cooking schools in this country makes America the country to come to learn to cook today.
A reversal.
Yes.
It's about time.
Yes.
This is Floating Island, a scrumptious dessert of a creamy custard base with soft meringue eggs or islands on top. To really fancy up this beloved old yet chic dessert, Chef Elizabeth Boyer demonstrates sponge sugar. Elizabeth, would you explain the process to us, please?
Certainly. The first thing that we're going to do is assemble our mise en place with our sugar, our granulated sugar, our water, and our cream of tartar, putting that into a pan and mixing it really well until the sugar somewhat dissolves prior to putting it on the heat. If you have a copper pan, that would be the best, but if not, just any heavy bottom pan.
Heavy bottom pan.
Would do.
Right.
Then we're going to go ahead and put it on the heat. And while this is cooking, we want to have it under fairly moderate heat, not too high, because we don't want the sugar to cook too quickly and unevenly. While it's cooking, we're going to go ahead and take a pastry brush, squeezing out the extra moisture, and brushing down the sides of the pan while it's cooking to prevent large crystallization.
Now that's important because this will turn to candy.
That's
if you
exactly
don't.
right.
A very important
rock
step.
candy, as a matter of fact, so we want to be careful about that. One thing about doing this is you do want to squeeze off the excess water from the brush, because that will continue to wet the sugar if you don't. And that's not really what you're trying to accomplish. So you just go ahead and wipe it down. And
How long will this step take?
probably only about 15 minutes. So it goes fairly quickly. You want to stand there and watch it.
Especially at the end.
That's exactly right. And then after the sugar has cooked, you will want to look for the tea color that you had mentioned. And after it gets to that point, you do want to plunge it into an ice water bath.
Now this is an ice water bath.
Right. What this does is it stops the cooking process, which is really important, because if the sugar overcooks, it can burn, and then we'll have kitchen bouquet.
I understand.
I went ahead and made this in a steel pan so that you could see what color this is going to be looking.
And it is
like.
the tea color, as we
It is
discussed.
the tea color. You do want it to cool down slightly, but what I look for more than anything is, rather than using my thermometer, I look for the threading inside the pan, which it is starting to do a little bit right now.
And then that indicates that it is ready to go. to
That's
spin.
exactly right. And then you throw it.
Elizabeth will show us how to finish up this simple yet dramatic dessert. Bill is assembling the final steps for us. Floating Island was one of Thomas Jefferson's favorite desserts. He first ate it in Paris, where it's still a very popular dessert today. The spun sugar is swirled or spun over the top of the custard and the meringues, including the plate's border. Caramelized sugar strands like these have lots of decorative uses and add a wispy elegance to many confections. However, it's best not to do it on a humid day. Should I add Essen Gut? Making spun sugar is sort of an adventure and something you might want to encourage your children to do. It's really quite easy, and the drama of it makes them think they've done something worthwhile, and they have. The last dish that we're going to make is a great accompaniment with turkey or pork dishes. It's a sweet potato recipe, and we